Hey guys, I'm Meteorologist Chris Tomer. Let's talk some mountain weather. We got nailed here in Colorado. Aspen snow mass. Look at that camera up there at Aspen Highlands. They reported like 13 inches of snow in the last 24 hours. Looking good up on Aspen Mountain as well. I watched that all morning long. Vail is reporting like a foot of snow. 5 or 6 on the Continental Divide up around, say, Loveland, A Basin over towards Winter Park. I want to also show you very respectable 9 inches up here reported at Alta in Little Cottonwood Canyon in Utah. I mean, obviously, it's a beautiful day there now. The snow has come to an end. What will happen now is across the west, we're going to have a high pressure build in for a few days, so it's going to dry out across Colorado and Utah. But really exciting on the horizon, we've got a nice trough of low pressure, and its position has been shifting over the last few days as far as its forecast position. So we're going to talk about that. I actually was writing about it in my blog this morning. I actually just published this. Active early November pattern, including California. Went through some of the bullet points on this. Talked about the current setup, which we'll go into here. This is visible satellite. So we're looking out across the Pacific here to where the key features are. There's a big low right here. There goes the low that would just move through Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. That one's going to be moving away. It's already moving out. There's another big low coming in through here, and you can almost see the flow with this. So you've got a powerful jet right in here and cruising down through the Intermountain West, driving that snow through the Rockies. Well, what's going to happen is this area up here is going to spawn or birth a large trough, and that's going to swing down and through California. So we could be seeing, finally, for the first time, an active jet and pressure pattern for the west, further west, including California. So I was writing about that. I talked about that pattern. You can see it here. I mean, that's a pretty big low. I'm going to show you the GFS interpretation, and it's even further west and cuts it off from the flow. And if that happens, we're talking even bigger totals in the Sierra. And here's the jet pattern. I actually loaded this in high res. Let me just pull it up here. So this would be my forecast pattern for the 3rd of November. Look at the jet, how amplified it is. This would translate into very strong winds across the Sierra, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. I mean, look at that tilt on that low. I mean, this is something we just haven't seen in a while in California, so that would be something that is a significant pattern change for that area. So back to the blog here, I also have, of course, the timing on here, and while we're talking about it, why don't I just go through it? All right, so we're going to start in the evening hours. Snow in Colorado comes to an end and moves down through northern New Mexico, where Taos and Angel Fire will get snow. Then there's a break here. You can see it tomorrow. There's Saturday night. There's Sunday morning at 6. There's not a lot happening across the Intermountain West with high pressure, but there is in the Pacific Northwest, BC, Alaska, Banff. That low pressure that's building up there will be the one that drops south and drops down into California and eventually plays a major role in the west. Let me run this out one more time. Low moves out. There's Friday morning. There's Saturday morning, very quiet, Intermountain West. Sunday morning, big low, Pacific Northwest, BC, Banff. And there's Monday morning at 6, so that's Halloween right there at 9:15. Just waiting on the pattern, the jet to buckle, and then that will translate it south. And that's when the fun begins for California. So all of that is in my update at christomer.com. Would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to that, and it will notify you in your email box every time I do an update like this, a full update. And there's my forecast, which I'll go into in more detail. I want to show you while we're on this, the GFS interpretation, just to give this a rounded out flavor. Okay, so the reds and oranges, yellows are the higher pressures. You can see those do build in 28, 29, 30, and 31 across most of the west. But here comes the change. Look at the big buckling. Look at the lower pressure anomalies on the 1st. Look how far west the GFS is. Wow. And you know, you're talking, I mean, it just rolls and cuts itself off. There's the night of the 2nd into the 3rd of November, and it just sits there. And if it cuts off, like I said, I mean, we're in the fourth right there. If it cuts off, we're talking even bigger totals. So that's a possibility. I'm not going that far. I'm not going to go with this interpretation yet. It doesn't seem as likely to me. I do think the trough will affect California, and that's reflected in my forecast, and here it is. So this is 11.1 through 11.5. Notice I do have snow in California, probably about 10 to 12 inches at Tahoe, Mammoth, Kirkwood, all of those places. 4 up in Shasta. Now, this assumes a more progressive pattern. The trough affects California, but it moves through. It may partially cut off, but I do not fully cut it off with this forecast. Like I said, if it does cut off fully, we'll have to up the numbers. But I'm going to keep it a little more progressive. So that'll still get some decent amounts to Utah, probably a foot in most locations. Although if it does cut off more, it takes a more southern track, Bryan Head would go up. Southern Colorado could be a nice beneficiary of this type of pattern with a foot or more, and this would benefit northern New Mexico as well if this pattern holds with less snow in northern Colorado. If it does go this far south, I don't see a whole lot, unfortunately, as much. I shouldn't say a ton, but we're probably talking 3 to 8, 4 to 8, something like that through Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. If this happens, it's hard to get that snow that far north. But with that low sort of hitting the Pacific Northwest, BC, Banff for 2 or 3 days, you can see the totals in Banff are impressive. If this plays out, we're talking probably a foot. Sunshine Village, Marmot Basin. So that is a distinct possibility. So there you go, some exciting stuff on the horizon potentially. Always appreciate you tuning in here. Take care.